live, you can know that it doesn't reflect an economy that is alien and that is going through enormous challenges. No.
All right, with what we're going through, sometimes we have listened to guests most times on our platform like this, and I guess any time we're trying to exonerate the Nigerian state and situation, we compare it to the global, what is obtainable on the global stage. But the truth is, our problems, our challenges, like you mentioned, are they not self-imposed? For instance, in developed countries, they did not, and they have not demonized subsidy. They have subsidies in education, they have subsidies. Why must it be in Nigeria that the word subsidy has not just been demonized, but has been blackmailed to see it as something we must not even embrace, let alone talk about?
Thank you very much. Subsidy is essential, but if you look at the old dispensation, the so-called subsidy was abused. It was abused. People were taking subsidy, they were not bringing in fuel and so on and so forth, and we are the ones paying, bearing the brunt of the so-called subsidy and whatever. If it was subsidy for the common goods and so on and so forth, it would have been better. But people were taking it, and of course we've seen high-profile Nigerians making confessions that they were taking the subsidy, but they were not even bringing in the fuel. Two, they were bringing in the subsidy and then taking the oil, the fuel, to neighboring countries to sell and making profits. You see, the problem with Nigerians is that we are too self-centered, we are too selfish, we are too myopic, and we are unpatriotic. We are unpatriotic. That is a problem. People are just after their pockets, after their own family interests, after their own individual interests, and so on and so forth. National interest, people put that as a secondary consideration. We should have the interests of the nation at heart. The first generation nationalists, most of them had they had their own limitations, they had their own lapses, but then they put national interest first. They put national interest first. These days, we think things will work automatically and so on and so forth. During the pre-independence period, during the period of nationalist struggle,
okay.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, he challenged his co-nationalists that they should seek him first the political kingdom, and every other thing will follow, every other thing will be added. Yeah. We sought it, and so on and so forth. And year in, year out, we are seeing that to a very large extent, things are moving from bad to worse. Since 1959 up to date, our politicians are campaigning with the same issues. You provide this, you provide that, you provide this, and there is nothing, not much, to show for it. And most of the things, these days, we talk more of palliatives, palliatives, palliatives. And we are not solving the fundamental issues. We are not. Let's look at the education sector, for instance. You see that these days there is a proliferation of universities and so on and so forth. Yes. Everybody thinks they must go to the university. And during younger days, I had people that made Division 1, Grade 1, which was a high grade at that time, and who went to polytechnics. They chose to go there, and they made it in life. Today, they are big Nigerians and so on and so forth. Today, everybody wants to go to university, and government is deceiving by establishing so many mushroom universities and so on and so forth. We are training graduates without skills, without even adequate knowledge, and whatever. Today, you see the performance of so-called graduates and whatever. Please, it's not a general something. We have Nigerians that are making it and who are making Nigerians proud. Now then you see some at the other end, at the other side, who are bringing down, lowering standards and whatever. Especially look at the proliferation of private universities, for instance. Proliferation. And they lower admission standards and so on and so forth. They chunk out several first class, several second class upper, second class lower. I know of a university, I won't mention that, some years back and so on and so forth, the least a candidate will come out with, even though most of those students that went there probably didn't do well in JAMB. Some did very, very well, and their parents just choose private university for them. But there are some who belong to the second or third 11 and who went there and so on and so forth. And it was a policy of that university to make sure that nobody came out below second class lower, no matter how terrible it is. You see, we are not being sincere. We've over-commercialized even education, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. If you kill education, you are killing the nation gradually. And this is rather unfortunate.
All right, you are an academic and par excellence at that, and I can appreciate that. But let me even take it to the universities now. When I was in school, I learned, and there was this written by my professor, when he said, an average Nigerian child is trained to accept explanations, never to search for or question them. Instead of subjecting events and situations to reason, he spiritualizes and emotionalizes them. He's not an inquirer, but a conformist, a believer in the givers, and unfortunate, helpless victims of his environment. And now let's look at that. What's the relationship between the professor and even us, the students? There are times you only come around to teach us when it's necessary. You were supposed to take me for a semester, and I only see you like 3 times in a semester, and the next is when I'm writing the exams. Our professors, are they also becoming political?
Thank you very much. Let me just correct that impression.
Okay.
I don't know the university you attended, but I can vouch for my university, the University of Ibadan. The picture you are painting is not that of Ibadan. Certainly that perhaps some of these second, third, fourth generation universities. University of Ibadan still stands high as the first and the best. And we give the best to our students. I told you the other time, my students that go for postgraduate studies, and I have them all over the globe. I have them all over the globe. They are making breakthrough in several areas, in the sciences, in the humanities, in the social sciences, and in whatever. And they are making us proud. We get feedback from them year in, year out. Yes, there are sanctions. You understand?
I got
Students have ways of assessing even their professors and their lecturers and so on and so forth. Yes, there are quality control measures. There are quality control measures. So the picture isn't as bad as we are painting it. I may not be able to speak for other universities, but as far as UI is concerned, wow, UI stands tall.
You are trying to bring UI because that is, okay, I can understand. I am not saying my university is only one of the best, even in the country, rated, even in Africa. I'm not going to mention them too. But the truth is, how many of you professors do have people like us to take over from you, your projects, your researchers? You are still so distant from us. I have had friends who have traveled abroad. They might not be doing very well when we were in school, but they became the best there. And when they showed interest in a research work of any professor, they are embraced, but not here. Sometimes you give us visitation hours time, and you put that on the door, 3 to 6. Anything other than that time, do not show up at my door.
I think I will still correct that impression.
Okay.
My students are my children. I have 3 categories of children, and I make this clear when students come. I have my biological children, I have spiritual children, and I have academic children. And when I talk of children, children, in the true sense of the word children, my students communicate me 12 midnight, 2 a.m. on WhatsApp when they have issues or they have to attend to something and so on and so forth. They are as close to me as my biological children. We stand in locus parentis.
That's
Okay, we'll have to bring Prof back some other time to talk about the student-lecturers relationship.
Yes.
We'll talk about that some other time. But now we have to focus on 2024 events that happened this year, and as a way of projecting a better future for the rest of our years together as a nation. Now, let's move away from education a bit to security, defense. In the 2024 budget, a chunk of the budget was assigned to defense and security. And I know that the present administration has also invested a whole lot in weaponry and all in the fight against insecurity. How would you say we are fared as a nation in the fight against insecurity?
We are making efforts. We are allocating high sums, the budgetary allocation, very high percentage to security. The resources are not commensurate with what we are investing and so on and so forth. And I think this has been a consistent pattern. This has been a consistent pattern, right from the military era to the post-military era and even up to now. One of the major challenges we are having today, as you rightly pointed out, is the issue of insecurity. If what we are budgeting for that sector, considering that, comparing that with other sectors, I think by now Nigeria should have been able to overcome the security challenges and so on. The situation is getting better. Now we can travel with relative ease.
Compared to what we had before.
Exactly, to what we had. But then we are not yet there.
We can do
there
better.
Are still challenges, and that is why we have food insecurity. That is part of the reasons why we have food security. People in the north, people in the middle belt, the food basket of the nation, most of them cannot go to their farms to actually produce because of this issue of insecurity. Just this December, we have people traveling and so on and so forth in various parts of the country and who were captured by bandits, kidnappers, and what all these are elements of insecurity. And to a very, very large extent, this will impinge on the economy of the nation. And of course, it has been impinging on the economy of the nation. Where people are not secured, the ability to be able to go to farm, the ability to be able to embark on viable vocations and so on and so forth, it will be affected. So the issue of insecurity is a national crisis, it's a national dilemma. The government has been budgeting, but to what extent? We know the Nigerian situation. There is high budgetary allocation and so on and so forth. What percentage of that allocation is actually devoted or is actually used for the purpose for which they are used? As I earlier stated, our people are so myopic, so self-centered, so selfish. Once there is an allocation, what can I get? What percentage can I get? And so on and so forth. This is what troubles Nigeria. And you see, I wouldn't know why people are so myopic and whatever. You see, if you have a house of 20 rooms, you cannot sleep in all the rooms at the same time.
Of course.
You have 20 cars, at every point in time you will be driving only one and whatever. Why do we continue to grab and grab and grab? The more you grab, the more you are denying others. The more you are denying others. And please, this issue of insecurity, from reports, we learned that there are high-profile people, even who are sponsors and who are patrons of this. And to a very large extent, this is part of the reasons why government finds it difficult to fight insecurity. We know of a president in this country who even confessed that members of his cabinet, some of them were sponsors of Boko Haram at that material point in time. I wouldn't mention the name of the president, but you know that. Yes. So it's a national crisis. It is a national crisis, and it is affecting all the sectors of the economy. Youth corpers, going for national service, kidnapped
Adopted.
because of this issue of insecurity. People going to their farms, people traveling. I think recently in the East, one of the lawmakers was traveling to his hometown, and he was exactly. So it is a national dilemma. It is a national dilemma. If we are able to tackle this, sincerely, if you are able to tackle this, we are going to tackle several other issues. Food security will also be guaranteed if you are able to do this. Yes. If we tackle the issue of food security, I think the nation will be able to move forward better. Agrarian revolution precedes industrial revolution. If you study the history of Britain, they had this agrarian revolution even before the coming of the industrial revolution and so on and so forth. So if we are able to have food security, security in the realm of food is going to affect other areas of security.
Okay, looking at this present administration, have they been able to do something differently concerning insecurity. Now we say we have relative security, just like we can travel from it. But if that much budget is devoted to security, isn't it tantamount to doing the same thing over and over again, like doing the same thing and expecting a different result, which of course, that is what insanity is. So what could they have done differently, or what have they been doing differently that they need to improve upon?
Thank you very much. As an historian, we usually don't give an assessment of events that are still ongoing. Yes, as I said, we are still in the gestation period and we've not seen the end result. But the little we are seeing, sincerely speaking, we are all in Nigeria. Some years past, you can't travel to many parts of the country after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m. And of course, even while you are in a town, you sleep with your one eye open, closed, one eye open, and so on and so forth. The situation is getting better, but it is too slow for comfort. It is too slow. And we feel that something better could be done. You see, we have one challenge. People are apprehended for security breaches and so on and so forth. How many of them
are prosecuted?
How many of them are sanctioned? How many of them are sanctioned? If you don't sanction people appropriately, if you don't allow the courts to do their jobs, if you don't allow the security operatives to do their jobs and so on and so forth, many of these challenges will continue surfacing. Yes, the Nigerian factor is always there. When there are security breaches, and of course investigations are going on and whatever, high-profile Nigerians are usually linked, and then they have ways of
covering it up.
Exactly, there are ways of covering it up. The law shouldn't be a respecter of persons, as the trend is in several parts of the globe, or certain parts of the globe. But here in Nigeria, some people are above the law, and that is why many of these problems repeat themselves.
All right, it's like 2 minutes to 11, meaning that at exactly 11 we'll be bringing you the news on the hour. We're taking a break on the program to bring you the news on the hour and Iroyi. Once we're done with those, we'll continue this conversation with Professor Ademola Ajayi.
Yeah.
2024
in retrospect.
retrospect.
And we still have a lot of things to talk about.
A lot of things to cover.
Rising that profile.
So stay with us. We'll be right back.
best in news, sports and entertainment. We got everything you need and so much more. Yeah. 98.5 FM. Oluyole. 98.5 FM. Hear me now. Down to the #1 station. Getting on quality information. Brighten up your day in so many ways. Tune to 98.5.
It's 11 o'clock. Good morning. The news on the hour. 22,000 constabularies have urged the Inspector General of Police and the Police Service Commission to obey the court judgment that ordered that they should be issued letters of employment. Recall that Justice Rekia Hastrop of the National Industrial Court, Abuja, had issued the order while delivering judgment in a suit instituted by the constabularies against the IG and the PSC filed on their behalf by Sebastian Honorable SAN. Justice Astrop ordered that the 22,000 police constabularies across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory be issued their appointment letters and repay the constabularies' salary arrears of about 4 years owed them since 2021. The court further directed that each constabulary be paid 54,566 naira monthly from January 2021 to May 2024. He added that he had already taken steps by writing the IGP and the President, asking them to comply with the court's judgment. A group of recently disengaged police officers has called on President Bola Tinubu to direct the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, to comply with the court order mandating their re-engagement in the Nigeria Police Force. The agreed former officers who were members of courses 33, 34 and 35 from the Nigeria Police Academy were forcefully retired before reaching 35 years of service or the age of 60. In April 2022, the National Industrial Court ruled in their favor, directing that they be reinstated. However, they alleged that the IGP, the Police Service Commission and the Secretary of the Police Force have failed to enforce the ruling. In an open letter to President Tinubu sent through their lawyer, Mr. Olatoye Adejola, the officers expressed their frustration with the delay. The letter, made available to newsmen on Sunday, detailed the court's decision and the subsequent failure of the police authorities to act on it. The officers urged President Tinubu to use his office to direct the IGP to take immediate action to ensure that their appointment dates were regularized as ordered by the court. And that ends the news on the hour. Thank you for listening. Good morning.
ẹ káàárọ̀ ìròyìn ní ṣókí. Àwọn ọlọ́pàá agbègbè táwọn olóyìnbó ń pè ní constabularies tó tó 22,000 ti rọ ọ̀gá àgbà ọlọ́pàá pátápátá nílẹ̀ yìí àti àjọ tó ń rí sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọlọ́pàá láti tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ tó ní kí wọ́n fún wọn ní lẹ́tà ìgbanisíṣẹ́. Àwọn ti pe adájọ́ Rekia Astrop ti ilé ẹjọ́ tó ń rí sọ̀rọ̀ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ nílùú Àbújá ló pàṣẹ yìí lásìkò tó ń gbé ìdájọ́ rẹ̀ kalẹ̀ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọlọ́pàá agbègbè náà. Adájọ́ Astrop pàṣẹ pé kí wọ́n fi àwọn ọlọ́pàá agbègbè tó tó 22,000 náà tó wà láwọn ìpínlẹ̀ mẹ́rìndínlógójì tó ń bẹ nílẹ̀ yìí àti olúìlú wa Àbújá ní lẹ́tà ìgbanisíṣẹ́ wọn kí wọ́n sì fún wọn ní àjẹsílẹ̀ owó oṣù wọn èyí tó ti tó ọdún 4 tí wọ́n jẹ wọ́n látọdún 2021. Ilé ẹjọ́ náà pàṣẹ pé kí wọ́n máa fún àwọn ọlọ́pàá agbègbè náà ní 54,500 àti 500 náírà lóṣooṣù láti oṣù kínní sí ìkarùn ọdún 2024. Ó fi kún pé òun ti gbé ìgbésẹ̀ láti kọ lẹ́tà sí ọ̀gá àgbà ọlọ́pàá pátápátá nílẹ̀ yìí àti ààrẹ tó sì rọ̀ wọ́n láti tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ náà. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ àwọn ọlọ́pàá tí wọ́n gba iṣẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn láìpẹ́ yìí ti ké sí ààrẹ Bọ́lá Tinubu láti pàṣẹ fún ọ̀gá àgbà ọlọ́pàá pátápátá nílẹ̀ yìí Káyọ̀dé Ẹgbẹ́tókun láti tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ tó ní kí wọ́n gbà wọ́n padà sí ẹnu iṣẹ́. Àwọn ọlọ́pàá náà ni wọ́n fẹ̀yìn wọn tì ní tipátipá láì tí lé ọdún 45 lẹ́nu iṣẹ́ tàbí pé ẹni 60 ọdún. Lóṣù kẹrin ọdún 2022 ní ilé ẹjọ́ tó ń rí sí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ pàṣẹ pé kí wọ́n dá wọn padà sí ẹnu iṣẹ́. Àmọ́ wọ́n fi ẹ̀sùn kàn pé ọ̀gá àgbà ọlọ́pàá pátápátá àjọ tó ń rí sí ọ̀rọ̀ àwọn ọlọ́pàá nílẹ̀ yìí pẹ̀lú akọ̀wé àjọ náà kùnà láti tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ yìí. Nínú lẹ́tà tí wọ́n fi ránṣẹ́ sí ààrẹ Tinubu láti pàṣẹ agbẹjọ́rò wọn Ọlátóyè Adéjọlá, àwọn ọlọ́pàá náà fi ẹ̀dùn ọkàn wọn hàn sí bí wọn ò ṣe tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ yìí. Àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ náà wá rọ ààrẹ Tinubu láti pàṣẹ fún ọ̀gá àgbà ọlọ́pàá pátápátá nílẹ̀ yìí láti rí dájú wípé wọ́n tẹ̀lé àṣẹ ilé ẹjọ́ náà. Èyí lópin ìròyìn ní ṣókí wa fún ti wákàtí yìí. Ẹ kú kalẹ̀.
All right, still the Breakfast Fiesta on Oluyole 98.5 FM. We are with Professor Ademola Ajayi, Professor of History, University of Ibadan, and just like we said, pioneer head of department, History, University of the Gambia. Still nice having you around, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we are still looking at the issues that defined 2024.
That is why we say 2024 in retrospect.
Yes.
The good, the bad, and then the ugly.
And the hopes.
And the hopes, aspirations of the people.
All right, so another issue. Oh, let me just start on the lighter notes.
All right.
Was there something we were talking about?
No, before the break.
Okay, so I'm glad we have a historian here. One, well, quite significant issue that also came up this year was the reintroduction and readoption of the national anthem, the old national Nigeria, we hail thee. Some people have criticized this readoption. They have said that there was really no need to bring an old anthem back or to bring it back alive. And we could have done very fine with the old one or with the one that has now been declared old, the Arise, O Compatriot. So what is your opinion about this?
Thank you very much. Yes, as you rightly pointed out, in the course of the year, the national anthem that we were using from 1960 to 1978, and which was done in 1978 during the regime of General Olusegun Obasanjo. Yes, that was brought back and it became a contentious issue. You see, the problem with Nigeria is not so much the issue of the weddings of an anthem or whatever. What has changed between, I think around mid this year and now, since we started adopting the anthem? Let me tell you one thing. Let's take a constitution, for instance. Or I used to tell people, the best constitution will fail to work if the users, you and I, we fail to adhere ourselves to the spirit of the constitution. On the other hand, an imperfect constitution will work well if we want it to work. What I'm saying is, the old anthem, the weddings, if we imbibe by the weddings and so on and so forth, of course they could effect the desired change. It's not the anthem that can actually bring a change. Today, majority of Nigerians are either Christians or Muslims making use of the Bible or the Quran. No, in spite of this, in spite of these two major religions, in spite of mosques all over Nigeria, in spite of churches all over Nigeria, we see have this crisis, we see have all the moral decadence and whatever. Is it the religion that has failed? Is it the Bible or is it the Quran? No. It is the practitioners. So it isn't the anthem itself that is capable of change, if not that we change our own orientation. So the issue of whether the old national anthem or the new whatever, people just sing it, it's a kind of lip service. It's a kind of lip service. Let me give you another illustration. When people are swearing in, are being sworn in as ministers, commissioners, and so on and so forth, they make use of the Quran, they make use of the Bible. Within 3 months or 4 months, they say, do what they said they are not going to do. So it's not a matter of the Quran, it's not a matter of the anthem as such. The old anthem, the weddings are quite okay, and I don't think there is anything wrong in the old anthem. It is our orientation that we need national orientation as individuals. And we should start from the individuals at the family level, at the school level, at the church level, mosque level, and then the larger societal level. This issue of lip service, and so on and so forth, people just pay lip services to issues. I don't think that is what can actually build Nigeria out of the problems we are encountering.
But considering that national anthem, people actually, particularly for those of us in heart, we actually question the originality.
The originality of
yes, the new national anthem, the one that is adopted now, that was just introduced. Who wrote it? That question. And because we see those, our flag, our coat of arms, even the national, as a symbol of national prestige. So why should it be decided to by someone who is not a native of our land?
No, that doesn't mean. You see, the world is a global setting, it's a global village. Most countries, the Ghana anthem, the current anthem in Ghana was, they started using it from 1957. Up till now, that is still what they are using. In the Gambia, 1965, and that is what they have been using, and so on and so forth. The issue of whether changing to the old, or whether it is original or it's not something. We have Nigerians that have made breakthrough outside, and those countries have adopted those things. They didn't say, oh, this was initiated by a Nigerian or whatever. What is good, no matter who initiated it. Do you understand? The Bible that we are using, is it written by Nigerians? The Quran that we are making use of, is it written by Nigerians and so on and so forth? Well, something is good and you feel it is. I think it should be. But as I said, it isn't the weddings that matter, but then our own individual orientation, our desire to actually effect changes. I think that is what matters, and not the weddings of the... No, it's not the weddings. It's not the weddings.
All right. Another issue of concern has been the rising debt profile of our nation. And we tend to ask most times, and some people tend to say that, do we have to borrow or something like that? But can Nigeria do without borrowing? And is the problem about borrowing or what is being done with the money?
Thank you very much. Can a nation do without borrowing? Yes and no. But then, for what purpose are you borrowing? And what is the effect of the borrowing? If you borrow and you invest it, and it's going to yield, let's come to the individual level. You are a government worker, I'm a government worker. You know that today you can hardly accomplish much if you don't take loans from your cooperative societies or from your banks and so on and so forth. But then, it will be criminal of me to take bank loan and then go and marry a second or third wife. But if I take it, I invest it in the school fees of my children, or I invest it in something that is going to yield. What is Nigeria using the loans for? Please, there is no nation that will not borrow and that doesn't borrow. Even America, the big businessmen that you are seeing, many of them, the shares that they are selling, they are borrowing, they are taking from other people by selling shares and whatever. So please, borrowing is not a crime, but it is the usage, what you make what you use that loan for. Do you understand? If you use it for something productive, something that is going to yield in the short term and in the long term, I think that is desirable. But in Nigeria, we borrow and we borrow and we borrow. Well, as far as the recent borrowings are concerned and so on and so forth, what they make us to understand is that they are desirable and that the economy was collapsing. And in spite of the borrowing, you know, by the time, according to government officials, that Nigeria was using about 97% of her resources to service debts, and that the thing has been reduced.
To 68.
Exactly. Now, the problem is, has it impacted on you? Has it impacted? That is the issue I raise questions about. Well, at the international level, we are saying Nigeria is doing fine, But what we have is more of growth and not development. Simply put, in terms of growth, we will have quantitative change, whereas in development, we will have qualitative change. Quality, which will affect you, which will affect me, it will affect the common man on the streets and so on and so forth, students in classrooms and whatever. I think that is what we need. Let us see the effect of the borrowings. Let us see the effects of the investments on all of us, the citizenry. I think that is what matters most, and not the figures, or the figures being quoted by IMF, by the World Bank, by experts in the international finances, something and so on and so forth. That is not what matters. What matters is what I bring to the table, or what happens to my children and whatever the younger ones whose future we are preparing for. So I think that is, it's not a crime to borrow. It's not a crime to borrow. But what are you making use, what are you using what you borrowed for? That is that is the area of a problem.
And then we move on from rising that profile to the size of the cabinet. We have an introduction, Ministry of Livestock. How expedient is that?
Thank you very much. Yes, people talk about the cabinet being over bloated and whatever. I think we've got over 40 ministers now. The Constitution states that each state, one minister from each state, and the Federal Capital Territory, that is making it 37. And then the Constitution still provides that the president can just on his own volition appoint extra from each of the 6 geopolitical zones. And we have 6 geopolitical zones. So 37 plus 6, that would be 43. I think that's about the cabinet and all those things. Well, it isn't the size of the cabinet, but the way we abuse certain things. In Nigeria, a minister will have so many hangers on. Several people, advisor, senior advisor, junior advisor, this advisor, and so on and so forth. That is the problem. I don't think the problem is with the number of ministers as such. But then the political appointees by these other ministers too, and of all this impinge on the economy. I don't think the size of the cabinet is, but the hangers, what we make use of the, yes, Nigeria is very, very large with over 200 million people and whatever, and we have so many ministries. Yes, the size it isn't, but then the number of political appointees, we have too many of them. Sometimes in the ministry, a minister will have about 500 other people who are taking government money. I don't think we deserve that. You see, you get to advance countries. When I was in the Gambia, I think some ministers that I saw on television, I've met them in the supermarket. They are common men just like you and I and whatever. You get abroad, you see high-profile government officials and whatever joining buses the same way we do and so on and so forth.
Bicycles.
Exactly, riding bicycles. But here, if a minister is coming from abroad and all those, you saw the number of cars, maybe about 15 cars, 20 cars, with the high cost. It is the cost, the way we are making use of this, that is the problem that we are having, and not so much the number of ministers that we are having.
All right, so with the challenges we've had this year, the successes we have recorded, consolidations we have done on policies, what should Nigerians hope for come 2025?
Beautiful. Thank you very much. In 2025, by the grace of God, yes, I think government itself should be more serious, creating a more enabling environment, and then let us see the results of the investments, quote and unquote. When you invest, you expect results. You expect results. Thank God the refinery, Dangote refinery, is operating now, and the monopoly is a bit broken with the working of the Port Harcourt refinery. If the second Port Harcourt refinery starts operation, if the Warri refinery starts operation, if the one in Kaduna also starts operation and so on and so forth, there will be more competition. There will be more competition, and the prices will drop. Just as you've seen that the prices have started dropping, but it's too no, it's not significant. It's not significant, and because it is dropping, we expect it to impinge on our exchange. We are not using this money to go and buy refined oil again. We are so we should be able to, and that the exchange rate should improve considerably in the coming year. I think we deserve this.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that was kind of heartwarming and promising.
Yes. Yeah. I will look
Very
forward
optimistic.
to.
We look forward to that. But let's talk about the power supply. Just this year alone, we added, broken down like 4 times, maybe more times than we can actually remember. And this is an administration that has promised us something great in the power sector. What has been achieved?
Thank you very much. Yes, the issue of power, please, I think there are elements of politics in it. I'm not a politician, and I'm not speaking for any politician. Some people don't just want things to work. Some people don't just want progress for this country. just because of their own political selfish or something. Some people are happy when they say there is this power outage, yes, the national grid and whatever, and there is this breakdown of this and whatever. Some people are happy politically, and you see them magnifying. And you understand that in certain parts of the country and so on and so forth, it is the bandits, criminals going to vandalize this and so on and so forth. And some of these are sponsored. From what? From the information we hear. You see, we should eschew politics. We should put politics behind and so on and so forth and work together. In advanced countries where they have governments and opposition, both the governments and opposition work together for the common good. But in developing countries such as Nigeria, the opposition see themselves as, the Yoruba will call the opposition Egbe Alatako. Alatako is an antagonist. Exactly. The opposition will find every way to antagonize a government, and we don't want such a government to succeed. I think if we all rally round government and so on and so forth, they are investing. And the government should also declare sincerity too. There should be that sincerity. Finding ways to alleviate the pains, the suffering. The tariff is too high these days.
So we're looking forward to government doing something about this come 2025.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Professor Ademola Ajayi, for coming on today's episode of Breakfast Fiesta. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. Professor Ademola Ajayi is from the Department of History, University of Ibadan.
And also the pioneer, the foundation head of Department of History, University of the Gambia. And also the former head of the Department of History, University of Ibadan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wishing all of us a prosperous 2025.
Amen. Thank you very much. And to you at home too, thank you so very much for being a part of the program this morning. This is wishing you a true